honestly, I think more than anything, I said it in the press conference, like, you win with people, right? And you can talk all you want. And I'm a big believer, right, in like driving process and having really good, systems set up around the operation at the same time, and culture, right? Like, huge believer in all that. At the same time, like, it's people that drive all that, right? And so getting the right people in the door with the right values. Maybe you heard me talk about it. Like, I want people that come in and add energy into the room, whatever room they're entering, people that are humble and open-minded, and then, folks that are competitive and folks of high integrity. Like, those things are also really important to me. So I talked about it like, it's a line that I've stolen from someone, I'm sure. But making the scoreboard visible, like, I think that's a really good thing. And I think, like, there's some people that are scared off by it and some people that are driven by that, like, oh, I got to compete. And like, that's what we want.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. Dan Kolko, Ryan Zimmerman, putting the finishing touches on the 2025 regular season and looking ahead to 2026. Zim, we did it. We made it through 162.
We made it through a whole season.
The Nationals' new president of baseball operations, Paul Toboni, joining us a little bit later on. Excited to talk to him about his vision for this Nationals organization and how he plans to implement that vision. A lot of big decisions to come. One big decision already handled with ownership hiring Paul, and we're very impressed by him and excited to chat with him. But first, Zim, let's put the finishing touches on 2025 and just kind of recap some of the things that we saw and some of our takeaways from this year. Obviously, not the season that the Nationals wanted to have, 66 wins and a last-place finish in the National League East, not the expectation that anyone here has for where this organization should be. There were some positives, however. Obviously, James Wood, an all-star season, north of 30 homers, mid-90s on the RBIs, and despite all the ups and downs, a full season in the big leagues in his age 22-23 season. Yep. Dalen Lyle finishes off 2025 by winning National League Player of the Month, not just Rookie of the Month, but Player of the Month in September. Both of them.
Two in 1 month.
That's right. So what an impressive start for Dalen Lyle in his rookie season. Dylan Cruz, we saw some positive things. The numbers overall not where he wanted it, but more on Dylan in a little bit. Mackenzie Gore, an all-star season, kind of tailed off in the second half, but we know the high level that he can pitch to. Brad Lord, there are a lot of positive things in a losing season. What are your overall takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I think, my overall takeaways is we have a lot of talent, and it's time to assess kind of that talent and move forward with who we want to move forward with. But, I think the most important thing is a lot of these guys, like you said, played an entire season. And, obviously James Wood was unbelievable in the first half. And everyone says, oh, he struggled in the second half. He did. Like, that's an important part of growing, especially as a young player, is learning how to play through September, learning how to play when you're a little banged up. Anyone can play when they feel good. Anyone can play when their body feels good and they're seeing the ball well. Like, if you want to be a star in this league and play 155 games a year, you got to learn how to play when you're at 80%, because your 80% is better than a lot of people's 100%. So I think for a lot of these guys to learn to play a whole season, to learn to go through the ups and downs, to learn what it takes to always play at this level, to come out here with the media, with the, hopefully in the near future, the expectations of winning. So for me, obviously the record wasn't what anyone wanted. Everyone wants to win. I think, we had realistic expectations this year. I think obviously the talent is here, but playing a tough division, so I'm not saying we didn't envision winning, but, I think it was more important this year for those kids to develop, to get into what it takes to play a whole year. That's, the Dylan Cruz thing, I think he played well. The hardest part for me is he missed such a big chunk of time.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see him next year be very, healthy, play the whole year. So, for me, like you said, a lot of positives, obviously some negatives, but I think good developmental years for a lot of our top guys.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah. But, fun to go through, fun to see. And what do you got for me to start it off? We'll go to you.
Okay. What I got is something from Dylan Cruz after game 162. Met with the media inside the clubhouse, Reporters asking him questions. And I think what we saw from Dylan this year, we've talked about it on and off over the course of the season, was beyond the on-field production. We know he's got ability in the batter's box. We know he's got ability in the outfield, his base running, all of that. There's the added kind of leadership it factor component with Dylan that maybe was just inherent in him, maybe comes from progressing through a collegiate program like LSU that has such high expectations and winning a national championship and being a leader on that team. I don't know the chemistry of it all exactly, but there's something about this kid. He had this quote at the end of the season. It all starts with day one next year, coming out in spring training and setting the tone, setting the standard right away, and really holding each other accountable from the start. I think a lot of times this year we were able to brush things under the rug and should have said something. I think from the start next year, we really need to hold each other accountable and set the tone, find the standard for next year. That quote to me speaks volumes about who Dylan Cruz is and about where this organization needs to get to. I think that we've talked about this too, Ryan. Like, you want talent, you want high-end ability, but you also want culture and you want guys holding each other to a high standard. And I think when you hear that, not just from Paul Toboni, who I'm sure is going to say it in a few minutes when he joins us on this podcast, not just from whoever the manager is, but from your, 23-year-old outfielder who doesn't have a year of, I guess he does have a year of full service time by now. That, to me, is something. And I think should excite Nationals fans about what's to come is, things were not great this year, but there's an expectation now that things will turn because there's an understanding that there needs to be a new level set from the top down, but also inside that room.
Yeah, and I think it starts with the top, obviously, with ownership, with GM, president of baseball, with the manager, whoever it's going to be. They all need to be in alignment. And I think your core group of players have to mirror whatever that philosophy is. And, hearing that from Dylan, my thing is the accountability part. And I think players have to hold each other accountable. And you have to create a culture and an environment where it's okay to go up and challenge someone and say, hey, you didn't run that ball out, or hey, you need to do this, or hey, I saw you do this. And that person has enough respect for the other person to take it in and then have a healthy conversation, because that's the only way to get better. And, to hear, like you said, a 23-year-old who barely has a year in the big leagues say something like that, I think shows how we're going. Now, the next step is to basically identify that core group, build off of these 6 or 7 young guys that you want to build off of, and then take the next steps to move forward and get them some veteran leadership and surround them with some people that can help them take the next step. So exciting times, like you said. What an awesome quote, and basically just an awesome self-reflection by him. And, I was around a little bit, not a lot. You were around a ton. I think you would agree. A lot of things were swept under the rug. And, in order to be successful at anything, whether it's sports or business or whatever it is, you have to be able to face, obviously, the things you do well, but more importantly, I think the things that you don't do well. And, it's going to be interesting to see how all these guys grow with another year, but, definitely exciting to hear that. And, he's already thinking about day one in spring training next year. So that's, it'll be fun.
I'm sure there were hundreds of times in your playing career where something like what you were describing happened, where a teammate challenged another teammate on something or called out another teammate in a sometimes in a positive way, sometimes negative. And I think there's a specific negative that pops into a lot of people's heads when I talk about that. But can you recall a very positive instance that stands out in your mind where something like that happened?
No, I mean, I think, the good thing is the positive ones, I don't want to say they don't stand out, because it happens seamlessly. And, the negative ones, like you say, but even the negative ones have positive outcomes when you look back. I think, a lot of these players, when there's fights or scrums, or I think, a month, 2 months later, you look back and both of the people involved or whoever was involved would say, hey, honestly, I think a lot of us are closer now because of that. Yep. So sometimes you just have to do it. and I'm not saying you should fight your teammates or you should do anything crazy, but, I think conflict leads to resolution a lot of the times. And, if you just let it fester and if you just let it grow and grow and grow, then it becomes a problem that really should have never existed. So, communication and accountability to me are, two of my favorite words when you're talking about successful sports teams.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. What do you got? What do you got this week?
I mean, I think it's boring, but I think I got the same thing you got. Like, it wasn't a positive year as far as wins and losses. Obviously, some of the young guys had great parts of the year. And I hope people understand how hard it is to be consistent at this level and have consistent good years. And I think as much as we want to take negatives out of it, I think there were a lot of positives like the Dalen Lyles. And I think, Brady House came up. Offensively, I think he was searching a little bit, but I think he showed he can play third base at the big league level. So for me, I think whatever you want to call it, rebuild, revamp, I don't know. Some people don't like to say rebuild. We're a few years into this thing now, and I think the important thing now is we have a good group of young players at the big league level, and there's a handful more at the minor league level that are on the way. So I think this offseason is important to now assess what you have, identify your core group of people, which the guy we're going to talk to later is going to be great to ask questions about that. But I think as an organization, you have to have the ability to assess your own talent. You have, you're the only people that get to see these guys every single day, from the time they're in low A to high A. And more importantly, you can assess the person. And everyone talks about talent, but I think what we're talking about now and what we've talked about a lot is culture. And the only way to build culture is to have good people that want to win, want to work hard, and want to do the right thing. So you have to find the talent, but you also have to find those people. So I think this year, Paul and whoever's in charge need to find that core group of guys. You need to empower those guys, and whoever the other guys aren't, I don't want to say you need to get rid of them, but you need to figure out what you want to do with who you have, move forward with your core group of people, and then surround them with some veterans. I'm not saying you have to go out and sign crazy people, spend tons of money, but, I think it's time to get this young core group of people some veteran leadership to kind of take that next step. And then from there, you see what you got. And then from there, maybe you go and do a little bit more. But, it's exciting for us because I think we've seen all these young guys develop a little bit. And I think we're to the point now where you can assess and you can point out who the main 6 or 7 guys are. And it's time. It's time to move forward with those guys. It's a business. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. Yep. But for me, it's exciting because I think we're getting to that point now where the young core is going to be identified. And from there, then it's up to ownership and the people in positions of power to say, who do we need to go get to fill in the gaps, but more importantly, fill in those leadership roles with some veteran guys to take this young core group to the next level.
And the thing about culture that you describe is you can't create it by just saying that you're going to create it. It happens organically and it happens through effort. And, Paul in his press conference said that one of his tenets is investing in people.
Yep.
And I think when you do that, people then invest in you, and that creates that sort of culture, that creates that trust and that desire to all pull on the same side of the rope. And there have been a ton of people that have worked in sports or worked in business, any element of business, and said, I'm going to create a great culture around here. And it's easy to say, but in order to accomplish it, you have to put in the work and you have to identify the right people. And then it can kind of foster itself organically, it seems to me.
Well, and you have to be true to your values. Anyone can say they're going to create this great relationship or this great atmosphere, this great culture. But when hard times come, you have to stick with your values. You can't abandon them when things get tough. And, the other thing I say is that's where the human element of baseball and sports in general comes in. You can't put culture into an algorithm. You can't put veteran leadership into an algorithm. So that's where all this statistical data analysis obviously has a place in all of sports, and I think it's incredibly valuable. But like Paul was saying, like, the human being still exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to be able to communicate and speak and talk and empower human beings. And that, I don't care what Ivy League degree you have or what you can't put it in, you can't just create it. You have to know people. So I'm excited to see what this offseason brings. I'm really happy that they got this done early.
Yeah.
So that he has a whole month of the postseason to really get his team together, get a plan together. So that first day after the World Series, I envision this guy like
coming out hot.
Coming out hot. And I think that's the way to go. And, hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to talk about.
Still a lot left to do. Paul in his press conference talked about other front office roles that he might be looking to address. There's a manager to hire. Yeah. There's a coaching staff to fill out. There's, minor league positions. There's R&D. There's like so many different components to this thing, but getting Paul signed, announced, joining us here on the podcast early will allow things to funnel from there. So looking forward to what is yet to come in the offseason for sure. And when we come back on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim, we'll be joined by Paul Toboni. We'll get to know the human being a little bit more. It's been a busy day for Paul. He's had to answer a lot of questions, but we've got a few more for him here on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. Dan Kolko, Ryan Zimmerman, and joined now by Paul Toboni, the Nationals' new president of baseball operations. Paul, you've been through the car wash today here at Nationals Park. You had the press conference. You had a radio interview. You met all the local media, and now you're sitting down with us. You all right? We good?
I'm all good. I'm ready to go. This is like playing games in like late August, early September. This is the spot I'm in, but all good. Yeah, so excited to do this.
It's great to have you here at Nationals Park. You've been here the last couple of days and settling into the new role and meeting a lot of people and probably drinking through a fire hose right now, but we appreciate you taking some time and sitting down with me and Ryan.
Yeah, anytime. Looking forward to getting to know you guys and happy to be on.
Yeah, I think it's a fun time. Obviously, you have watched the club from afar and know how talented we are, young talent. I think it's a cool group to be involved with because they're still up and coming. We just talked before you came on about how like a lot of these guys, it's their first full year. And, they were developed, they came through the system. Some of them maybe came through a little bit faster than normal. Yeah. But, a guy like James Wood has a huge first half. And then fans are like, oh, he's struggling. What do you do? And it's like, this guy has never even played.
Yeah.
I don't think fans understand that, like, August is tough. Pitchers figure you out. For them to just play the whole year healthy, to learn what it's like to play at 80%, to learn that, hey, I'm James Wood, my 80% is as good as, you have to learn how to get through those things. So, obviously we're excited to have you. I think you're a great guy to take this kind of organization to the next level, or nobody likes to call it a rebuild anymore, or whatever it is. You have a good core group, good young core group of guys. Like, as an executive, what in your eyes do you think takes those young guys to the next level? Do you surround them with veteran guys? Do you let them just keep going? Do you, what are your philosophies on? You've seen so many young guys go to the next level. What in your mind takes them to that next step?
Yeah, so obviously I didn't play in the big leagues, right? You could probably speak to it a lot better than I could, but how I think about it is like, honestly, I think about the Boston team this year, right? And we had so many young guys coming up, similar deal, like Roman first year, Marcelo first year, even the pitchers, Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, all these guys. And, I think it starts with the staff, right? Having a staff around them that can really support them. But then the player group, like they're all aligned on like how you should carry yourself, how, you should not only hold yourself accountable, but hold others accountable, right? And then you mentioned the veteran presence. Like, I think a lot about Bregman and what he's brought to that group, right? And, you don't know what you don't know, I think, when you're young in the league, right? And once your eyes start to open a little bit, just Bregman, but Trevor Story or whoever it might be, right? Like, hey, this is my Trevor's routine, right? And I get here at this time, and this is how I go about my work. And sometimes you make the assumption that the young guys know that, right? Or even like the more veteran guys, some of them don't, right? And so allowing them to see that and folding it into their routines or their games, I think is a huge thing. So,
yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it on the head. Like we talked about this too, like adding some veteran guys and teaching. It's unfair to ask James Wood or Dylan Cruz or these guys to thrust them into a leadership position in year one.
Yeah.
Like these guys are just trying to figure out how to stay in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get here. It's even harder to stay here. They're adjusting as the league adjusts to them. So to have them try and teach other people how to carry themselves or, create a culture that, you need guys like Bregman, you need guys like Trevor Story that have been through it. And, in my opinion, that's the biggest thing that needs to happen. Like you can't win with just talent. We always say too, like you can't put culture or character into an algorithm.
Yeah, right.
And you can't buy it either. So you have to do your research and get good guys, obviously talented players, but people that are willing to create that culture. And once you create the culture, we always just say you could bring in one or two guys that are a little, outliers that might be super talented and they're almost forced to conform and become part of the group. And you include them and you make them feel comfortable. And then a lot of times you see those guys get even better because they start to have fun. And, I just love what he said about Bregman and Story and those guys, because I think people discount leadership, especially in baseball. We're here every day. We spend more time here than we do with our family for basically 8 months. And you really have to care about the people that you play with. And that's the only way to win. So
Hey, can I add one more thing? Ryan.
Like you can add whatever you want, buddy.
On that point, like I think there's another like really important element, and that's like when you have the veteran guy that is aware enough to realize that whoever it is, whether it's Dylan or James or Dalen or whoever, right, and like empowering them to be comfortable being leaders even though they're young. Like I think that is big, because sometimes those guys that come in are on 1 or 2 year deals, right, and they're going to be gone after a year or two, but making sure that given their like standing and their presence, right, like they feel like they're encouraging and empowering like other young guys to really be leaders in the clubhouse. Like sometimes that's all it takes for whoever, any of those guys, right, to say like, okay, I can take the bull by the horns here and be a leader here. Yeah,
we've talked about that quite a bit as well. I'm curious, we'll get into kind of your organizational philosophies and all that stuff in a second. I'm curious though, just about your upbringing. You're from the Bay Area. You played a variety of sports growing up. You played baseball collegiately, but tell us about yourself growing up and why baseball became this love and passion of yours when there were other elements in the mix that maybe could have steered you in another direction.
I guess going way back, like my grandfather and my grandfather's brother played in the PCL like way back in the day. So those teams like with DiMaggio and Dolph Camilli and like the San Francisco Seals, Mission Reds, like I don't know if those team names ring a bell for you, but it was funny when I was young. Like I remember reading a biography on Joe DiMaggio and hearing that you see my grandfather's name in the book and hearing that like he taught him how to tie a tie. Like my grandfather was kind of like the older guy around.
That's incredible.
Doing that sort of stuff. So to some extent, like I guess it's in my blood, so to speak. That said, when I was young and, my brothers were here today, one of my sisters, like sports was just everything we did. Like maybe not all that similar from you guys, but baseball, like I didn't spend the majority of my time playing baseball. I played a ton of hoops. I was just playing whatever season it was. I was playing that sport, and
what a concept.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We need a little more of that in this day and age.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah, we can do that too. But no, I thought I was honestly, I knew I wanted to play in college. I thought I was gonna be playing hoops in college, and I was a good hooper, not a great hooper, and so I could have gone and played in like the Ivy League or like low to mid majors, and I was like, you know what, if I'm going to be a professional athlete, like I should probably try and play at a high major, and baseball is probably my chance to do that. But on the baseball field, I think I was like a pretty good athlete that was just super green. Like I didn't know how to play the game, and so I went to Cal and ended up having a few hip surgeries and didn't get on the field a ton, but had a blast. I had a blast until. So we went to College World Series in 2011, and and Zim's UVA Cavaliers fed us both of our losses in the College World Series, and we were packing.
Just got awkward.
yeah, no, but it was a great experience, and met a ton of friends, and I look back on that time with a lot of fond memories.
So when did the focus shift from I want to be a pro athlete to all right, that door is closed?
Yeah,
I want to attack this from a different perspective.
Probably too late, to be honest. Like, I think, like, you know, when you're like that young, like, I think you have this naivety about you, like it's still gonna happen, right? I was probably a senior with like whatever 25 or 50 total plate appearances, and I like thought I was like still gonna be drafted or something, right? So senior year, I was kind of like that moment where it was like I gotta figure my what out. So I liked school. I was always I was always like intrigued by going to a school outside of the Bay Area. I spent my whole life in San Francisco and then at Cal and Berkeley, and I was interested in business, so I ended up going to the University of Notre Dame, which was like exactly what I was looking for. Like big football school, South Bend's great, and so I went there for 2 years, and I was interviewing for a bunch of jobs, and I found myself checking box scores in the morning. I love baseball, and so I was just like, I got to get back into this. I don't know how it's going to look, but I got to get back into it. So.
Well, I don't think you started too late. You're 35, and you're in charge of a team, so I think you made a decent decision. You were with Boston for a while. This could be a tough question, but I think it'll lead to a lot of stuff. Like, what are some of the most important things you learned from your time there? Obviously, starting from down low all the way up to where you were, like, what are like some of the key things you learned, how to run an organization, what matters most? What are like kind of, I guess, your main values that you've seen breed success? Because that's a great organization.
Yeah. Honestly, I think more than anything, I said it in the press conference, like you win with people, right? Yep. And you can talk all you want. And I'm a big believer, right, in like driving process and having really good, systems set up around the operation at the same time, and culture, right? Like huge believer in all that. Same time, like it's people that drive all that, right? And so getting the right people in the door with the right values. Maybe heard me talk about it. Like I want people that come in and add energy into the room, whatever room they're entering, people that are humble and open-minded. And I was joking with Franson. I was like, man, like having people in the building that can like give a jab and take a jab and not get hurt over it. Like that's important to me, right? It tells me you don't take yourself too seriously. Right. Yep. So, and then, folks that are competitive and folks of high integrity, like those things are also really important to me. So, I talked about it like, it's a line that I've stolen from someone, I'm sure. But making the scoreboard visible, like, I think that's a really good thing. And I think like there's some people that are scared off by it and some people that are, driven by that. Like, oh, I got to compete. And like, that's what we want, So, yeah, just, it's not just about getting people that fit those values. It's about creating the environment where they can thrive in those areas.
It's funny because a couple podcast recordings ago, Zim was talking about how, like winning and losing is important. And the people, I think you said the people who don't care about losing or
they're
like
losers.
If they lose, they're losers. and maybe a little harsh, but also some truth to that. Like the goal here is to win, is to be the last of 30 teams left standing. And it seems to me like that it goes on a large scale, but on a small scale too. If you care about winning the little things on a day in and day out basis, and whatever your task is in whatever role of the organization, you want to win that day and you care about winning that task that day, that will breed that sort of competitiveness that can lead to organizational wins on the field and then hopefully in October.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, and even like when you're not having like the best year that you can have, right? Like, let's say you're eliminated from playoff contention, right? Like, that drive should still be in you, right? Like you should still be going out there and working your, what off to, to break up a double play or get down the line or whatever those things are. Like that's being a competitor. And like, that's what we want here in all of our players, but also our staff members too. Like, could you imagine playing for a coach that wasn't competitive?
Yeah.
Like, you'd be like, what is going on here, right? So those things are really important to me, and it's just one of the many things I think we'll prioritize here going forward. Also, not to like suggest that like this hasn't been prioritized in the past. I haven't been here, I don't know, but just moving forward, like those are going to be things that we prioritize.
Yeah, and I think every big league organization has certain standards, and sometimes you just need a refresh and things like that. But accountability, I think, is huge, and I think it's super important for the players to hold each other accountable. And there's a lot said earlier in the year about how the coaches are doing this, coaches aren't doing this. Like, coaches are great, and especially at the big league level, but like there's something to be said for a player saying something to a player and a coach saying something to a player. And I think it always is more heavy when it comes from another player.
Yeah.
Not that coaches aren't the same, but a manager has a job, a hitting coach has a job, and all that. But when your peer, when your teammate comes up and says something to you, and also, like you said, you have to be able to take that as a man and be able to receive the criticism, but also go back and not become contentious.
Respond positively.
I think the best teams are able to do that and have some conflict, because conflict is good. But I think accountability and, like you said, the competitiveness is what breeds success. And I mean, if a young team like we did and you're out of the playoff contention, like those guys, a lot of these guys had the opportunity of a lifetime this year to play a full season in the big leagues. Not that they didn't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Nobody gets called up to the big leagues unless they deserve to be here. But whether you're in the playoffs or not, you're competing for a job next year, your livelihood, and just the ability to play in the big leagues. Like, you should never take for granted. There's always someone that wants to take your spot. That's what my dad always told me. He's like, you're playing third base, you're playing first base, whatever. You're in the big leagues. There's only X amount of people that get to do that. Like, don't let anyone take it from you. If someone comes and takes it from you, you should be able to go to sleep knowing that I did everything I could. So I love that sort of philosophy, and breeding competitiveness is what makes organizations, I think, take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say too, like, I think it starts really early. Like, you might not see the fruits of it for years, right? But we talk about the draft. Like, we can all evaluate tools and, performance in college or in high school, whatever it is, right? But like, really going the extra mile to learn what the kid and the family is about. Like, it might not pay dividends right away, but 2-3 years down the line, like, I think you're going to be happy if you have a lot of like the right character guys in the building that can kind of drive that winning culture that we're talking about.
What I think is interesting about you as a president of baseball operations, a lot of times these days, it seems from the outside, and not to speak about this negatively, but people who hold this role might have an analytics background, or they have an Ivy League education, but they didn't play the game at a certain level, the collegiate level in your case. They might be into the data components of the game, technology, but they don't maybe have as much scouting, or one or the other. You have a blend of those things. You did play collegiately. You do have an MBA from Notre Dame. You were an area scout. You modernized the Red Sox draft and development operations over there. How do you think that maybe uniquely positions you to not just handle your responsibilities as president of baseball operations, but also coordinate through all these other elements of the organization?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, like, it allows me to maybe empathize with everyone in their positions. Maybe not everyone, but like, I know the feeling of like driving the 6 or 7 hours out to Lubbock, Texas to go see a junior college player that's probably not going to be a top 10 round pick, right? And I know the feeling of like, hey, you feel like you're on an island, right? Like, as an area scout doing all this work, no one's seeing you do the work, and you're not having all that much communication with folks in the office, whatever it is. Like, those can be tough feelings, right? So like, you empathize with the job. You also empathize with how important the work is, right? And I would say the same thing about all our analysts and those in the R&D department as well. Like, I can imagine what it feels like if you're, working really, really hard to help gain an edge for us and no one's hearing you. It's important for me to foster an environment where, like, whatever everyone's role is, right, they're two things. They're really challenged in the role, right? But then they're also really supported. Like, they feel like, hey, I'm pushing them, or leaders are pushing them, but they feel like we got their backs. Like, that's a I think that's true for hopefully every position across the organization. So.
Yeah, it's like the hybrid that we always talk about. And, I think that's what we're starting to see. Baseball, everything kind of goes in waves and it swings back and forth. And I think, we went super data analytical, which there's a place for that. I think there's tons of value in numbers and statistics, and you can gain edges. And even if it's a 3% edge, it's 3% that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
But, to hear you talk about the human element, being empathetic, challenging people, like actually communicating and talking to people. And, I think that's what the combination of both of those is what makes you successful.
Yeah.
And I always say you can't put character, you can't put that in, things like that into an algorithm.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget that obviously human beings play on the field, but human beings also run everything that you see as well. And if you're just pounding away or, like you said, that guy that's doing the data analysis for like hours and hours and hours and never gets to talk to another human being, like you just get burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think having the human element and hearing you talk about relationships and communication, and to me, that's what's kind of been lost in the last few years, communicating, like going out to dinner with people you work with. Like, and we both have young kids. My oldest girl is about to be 12. So now it's like into like, they don't know how to talk to people. It's like they know how to text. They know how to like, they like go talk to someone. Like get to know your classmates, or get to know your coworkers, or get to know your teammates. Like that's what I tell a lot of these young guys too. It's like go out to dinner with someone that you don't know on your team. Like know where they came from, know what they like. Like have a beer with someone and just hang out.
Yeah,
like, you'll be surprised what you get to know. So it's really refreshing just to hear. And it's coming back. I'm not saying it's just you, but like just to hear people like get back to sort of not the way baseball used to be or sports used to be, because obviously the stuff we've learned in the last 10 years is groundbreaking. I think it's made the sport infinity times better. But like I think just going back to like being human beings again is, I think in my opinion, a great way to run an organization. It's kind of nice to hear it.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned in your press conference that you want to build a scouting and development monster, which sounds really cool. Like, I like that. I think a lot of people like that. What is that to you, and how do you go about accomplishing that on a more granular level?
Yeah, so I think like what it looks like at the end of the line, right, is like you see Dalen and James and CJ and all these guys, right, like graduating to the big leagues and having success, right? Like imagine where it's just like, they're like being churned out like year over year after year. We have all this young talent just nonstop coming up to the big leagues, right? Like that's what we want to get to, right? The unsexy part of it is like what takes place before that, right? Like entering the draft, like it's not chance that some of these organizations that are really good in the draft, right, like are really good, and they're really good over sustained periods, right?
And if they're drafting at the back of the first round pretty regularly.
Yeah, right. So, so much of it to me, like I think circles back to like understanding the things that are important, and then having a leadership in place that can really align the group on, hey, these are the things, these are the expectations out of everyone in their roles. And my job is to hold you accountable to that, right? And like we talked about, like I'm going to challenge you, but I'm also really going to support you. I think if we do that, like I keep saying the line, but like the score will take care of itself. Like don't worry about that, just worry about the process piece. No different than if you're a hitter. Like if you're, looking at and I get it, there are times when you do this, but if you're looking at your slash line on the scoreboard every day, like it's probably going to wear you down, right? But if you are sitting there really locked in on the work you're getting in every day, and you're staying disciplined to the things that are going to keep you good, like you'll be fine, right? Just let your numbers be your numbers. It'll work out in the long run. So.
Yeah, and I just love, going back to the draft, and you said this too, like the philosophy of this is how our entire organization works, and you're going to hire coaches, you're going to hire developmental people that all align with that philosophy. And from the top all the way down to the bottom, when we draft a kid and he goes to wherever he goes, from that point, he's going to learn what the Washington Nationals expect of their players, how we develop. In low A, when you go up to high A, the system's going to be the same. Like, it's hard. I don't think people understand, like, a young pitcher, a young position player can go from spot to spot to spot, and he gets 2 or 3 different places and is told 2 or 3 different things. Like, and not all organizations are like that. I'm not saying we were like that before either, but like, it's just hard for a young player to do that.
Yeah.
Like, when everything's aligned and your philosophy is, everyone knows what it is, not only is it easier for the players, but then talk about the draft too. Like, we all know what types of players the Washington Nationals now like, and it's easier to make them successful if you're drafting players that fit into that profile.
Yeah.
And you're not just like throwing darts at a board. And everyone talks about the first 2 or 3 picks, and those are great. And, you know, those are obviously the fun picks that everyone talks about. But I think the really good teams, like you're talking about, if you're going to churn players in, like, it's got to be those 6th through 10th round picks where obviously they're all talented, but I think, like you said, you do the extra work to find out what type of person they are. You want the guy that, like, you know, maybe you're up 10-4, but it's his last at bat and he's 2 for 4. And, you know, instead of going 2 for 5, he wants to go 3 for 5.
Yeah.
Like, those are the people you want in your organization.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you build that, it's just, then you develop those players that, you know, man, how do they keep doing it? It's like, well, they hit on like their late round players as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Like, and what I will say too, like for those that are in the organization, what I think a lot about is, you know, I tell our coach, or I told our coaches when I was in Boston, like, if I were to just like randomly pluck any minor league player, right, from any team and just ask them, hey, what are your 2 or 3 top priority goals, right? Like, the players should be able to recite them like that, right? Like, I need to control the zone better, right? And I got to work on my range defensively. Like, just keep those things front of mind, right? Like, so when I say like, hey, yeah, we have to align across the organization 100%, like from like a hitting, pitching, catching standpoint, like you have to be aligned on like what we value, but it's also like, what are the process pieces to make sure that like all these players are individuals, right? And like to get the most out of each and every one of them, like we got to be locked in on communicating with them and educating them on what is going to help them get up here and be successful up here, right? So it takes a lot of work and a lot of energy. And honestly, I think that's why a lot of people shy away from it, right? Which highlights the importance of, you know, having the right people surrounding these players.
Do you have a drafting philosophy of the type of player or the characteristics of actual on-field play that you're looking for?
You know, I have like probably profiles that I prefer, but, you know, I don't think you want to stay too rigid to them, right? So like, you don't want to, I love like up the middle athletic guys, right? You don't want to keyhole yourselves into those and pass up on this guy, right? Like that's that wouldn't be smart, right? So I think yeah, like there are certain attributes that we will value, right? And a lot of the times that lines up with like how informed we are on like what we can develop once they're with us and what we can't is our feelings, right? And like ideally, if it's working really well, we're selecting on the traits that we have a really tough time developing, right? And then pouring ourselves into the areas where players might be deficient in these areas, but we're pretty confident we can push guys in the right direction here, right? So that's like a way simplified way of putting it. It's not that easy, obviously, but just generally speaking, like I think that's how I think through it.
Yeah.
What's next? What are you have a lot of things on your plate.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things you need to accomplish. What are the biggest things that you hope to accomplish in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
So there's the whole like baseball side of it, then there's the whole family side of it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I haven't seen my family much, so I'll probably take a little bit of a breather and spend some time around my wife and kids. But you know, the baseball side of it, like I really just need to spend time around people and you know, learn who makes up the organization, right? And then I think just learn how we do things here, right? Like I don't want to. You want to balance two things, right? Like you don't want to rush to judgment on certain things or in certain areas, right? But you also want to be pretty quick and decisive if there are areas that you think you can improve right from the get-go, right? So that's a challenge of a leader. Like I think a lot of those times, like it's not terribly easy, right? But I think it all starts with just getting to know people and how we do things. Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, good stuff. Favorite thing that you said was, I believe in looking at the scoreboard. And I think, you know, winning and losing isn't everything, but I think even in the minor league level, like valuing winning, like teaching those young kids that winning is fun and like to work together to win. And we're all here to grind together. And, you know, individually, like you said, you're developing in the minor leagues and that's important and we should do everything we can. But like learning to win in the minor leagues, I think has been discounted for a while and everyone's worried about developing, which I get, but like winning like a AA championship, whatever, that matters. Like those kids get to like spray champagne and like that's what you want them. You want to have those kids want to do that.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like it. So I think the scoreboard teaches you a lot of lessons. It teaches you how to play the game. It teaches you situations. But getting back to like, winning and losing, like it's just great. It's so simple, but like I think kind of lost its way for a little while there.
Yeah. I'll take that one step further, because I like wholeheartedly agree. Obviously, I said part of that, but the like there's been so much attention paid to development, which is the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we got to develop these guys, right? A huge piece of that is placing emphasis and a level of importance on executing when you need to execute, right? So if you're in the game and the situation calls for you to execute, right, and you don't execute, like that should hurt you. You know what I mean? Like you should really feel that. And like when you walk back into the dugout, like you should feel like you let your teammates down. Like, and it's not like, I'm not saying you should sulk over it, right? Or you shouldn't get over it, but like it should be really important to you to execute for all your teammates, right? Because like that's a part of what drives winning, and winning is really important, right? So, I think there are different layers to it, but yeah, at the tip top of the pyramid, it's that like winning is so much of why we're in this. So,
and the big wins and the little wins. I tell the story all the time. Daniel Murphy in the dugout, I would hear him all the time. If a guy would be fighting through a long at bat and he'd foul off a pitch, he'd go, "Yeah, win another one." Yeah. Like you won that pitch. Now go win another one. Like those are the sorts of little wins that can lead to the big wins. I love hearing that. Let's get to some rapid fires. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. For every guest, Paul, for every guest that we have on the podcast, we end the interview with what we call 5 walk-off questions from the guy that we around here call Mr. Walk-Off, because he had 11 walk-off homers in his career. So Ryan has 5 walk-off questions.
All right.
So the idea is here to answer them quick, yeah?
Yeah, you can answer them.
But you're the president of baseball operations.
Yeah,
You know
right.
as long as
And they're nothing crazy. So I do the first and the last I ask everyone. So the first one is like a motto you live your life by, or something you learned along the way that has really had a huge impact in your career. Like, something, just a saying or something.
I said it in the presser, but it's a Greg Popovich line, like get over yourself, right? Like you're not that important, man. So I tell myself that, and I think like, I don't know if you're looking for an explanation here, but I think like the reason why it's so important, it goes back to what we were talking about, right? Like being able to like give a jab and take a jab. Like 100%. If you think you're too important, man, like you can't laugh at yourself. Like you can go play for the other team. You know what I mean? So
100%.
And I think just that humility and that open-mindedness, like it blends in, or it bleeds into other things as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think humility is a big part of, hopefully what I try to embody, but obviously what we want the group to embody going forward.
Love it.
Yes, sir. So you're new to DC. First place you want to go or first thing you want to see? Can be you, your family, like what? There's a lot of cool stuff to do here.
Okay, so
I mean, there's monuments,
got a
there's
couple
areas.
So my challenge is I've already been to a lot of the different monuments here. So I've spent a decent amount of time here.
All right, so what's your favorite DC thing?
Yeah,
Let's
so then
modify
what's your
it.
favorite?
I mean, I think just going down to the mall and like running along, like running the stairs, and you get there early in the morning and the sun's coming up. Like that's a cool feeling,
I think that's a good answer.
No, it is.
Okay.
You know what you're doing.
There.
You know what you're doing. Running on the mall it's a pro move.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about running crack of dawn, so I won't speak to that.
Yeah.
But you athletes can talk about that.
You got 4 young kids. What's your favorite activity or trip, or what's the favorite thing you've done with your family lately?
Oh man. Coming to the yard is up there. You know what I mean? My oldest is 6 and he's starting to really get into it, and
That's awesome.
And that's fun. It's funny, they were wearing jerseys today and it said Toboni on the back, and he was kind of pissed off that his didn't say wood. Like he's
Nice.
So I don't know what that means, but that's one. But I mean, we're pretty easygoing folks, like I grew up going to Lake Tahoe. I don't know if you've ever been to Lake Tahoe, but like being on the lake and just spending time with family and friends, like that's important to us. So
Awesome.
So yeah, I know that's kind of a boring response.
No,
but it's
good. It's great.
That's how I feel.
All right, a lot of good food scene in DC now. What's your favorite type of restaurant, or what's your go-to when you go out to eat?
Okay, so I feel like I know this scene here a little bit. I'm not really going to answer your question, but I'll tell you what I'm really excited for and related to all this. Jose Andres has the restaurant, right? That
he was on the podcast earlier this year.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
You two are in some pretty special company.
Yeah, sweet. I love it.
Podcast guests.
So doesn't he just opened up a new one, right? And isn't it like a 12-person,
So he has a bunch of them here.
Okay.
Yes, there's mini bar.
Mini bar.
Mini bar is it's like a 12 seat.
That's what I was
That one's awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of places. So
Okay.
Dan knows everyone. He'll hook you up.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, going back to Jose, but he just seems like a great dude. And
Ryan does.
He
will actually hook you. Ryan will actually
He's
hook
one of
you.
the best humans you'll ever eat.
Yeah.
And
Tremendous.
His food and his places are incredible. And, but yeah, that'd be a fun one to go to.
Yeah, I think too. We work in baseball, right? Like what that guy is doing with, the stuff away from his restaurants, is much bigger than baseball and pretty darn cool. He just seems like a great guy.
No doubt.
Yeah. He's nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So
If you're into that sort
that's
of
kind of cool. Kind of cool. All right. Last one. We asked this to everybody. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man, you're not going to make me sing it, are you?
No.
No one.
Not yet.
Actually, didn't. Someone sang one, but we don't need it.
Probably Tom Petty, Free Fallin'.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Solid.
It's a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah. Some people lock up. That's good. I like it.
All right, Paul. Awesome having you here, man. Congratulations on the job. Welcome to DC, and thank you for joining us on the podcast. It's been really cool learning about you, and we're looking forward to learning more about you in the weeks, months, years to come.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Looking forward to getting to know you better over the course of the next few months, years. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. Take care. Good
Sounds
to see you.
good.
Paul Toboni joining us on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. Great stuff there with Paul Toboni. Really excited to have him leading the Nationals baseball operations staff, and he's got a lot of work to do. So we got him out of here, and he's headed right to the office, I'm sure. All right, let's get to our final couple fan questions. Went long with Paul, a lot of stuff to discuss, so we'll just have a couple here. This one comes from Sarah from Navy Yard, who says, Dear Kolko and Zim, I attended my first Nats game in 2010, and my family has been avid fans ever since. Fast forward a dozen or so years. Now I live within walking distance of the stadium and attend games frequently. My 10-year-old self wouldn't believe it. Anyway, on to my questions. Zim, why number 11? Personally, it's been my favorite number for a few reasons. One, double number 1 is better than just 1. That's
solid point.
Factually correct.
Solid point.
Number 2 is you, Zim.
Okay.
And number 3 is, Sarah says, my birthday. So, Zim, question for you. Why number 11?
So number 11. So growing up, I was always number 1. The lesser number of number 11, I guess, according to Sarah. But I was number 1 because Anthony Hardaway
Penny
was my favorite player growing up.
Nice.
I'll never forget the day I got his shoes for youth basketball. They had the little Penny commercials.
Yes.
And, the Orlando Magic, all that he was my guy. So then I just started wearing number 1, and then it just that was my number all the way up. And then I got to UVA, and they just give you a number, and there was a guy in my freshman class, Matt Dunn, who was a smaller guy, the second baseman from Georgia, who still a great friend. They gave him number 1, and I randomly just got number 11. So I was like, well, at least I don't, like Sarah said, it's 2 number 1s. It's even better. So that's how number 11 started. But number 1 was my first number with Little Penny. And then in September of 2005, I was number 25.
That's right.
Because Junior Spivey wore number 11. And then obviously in 2006.
You couldn't just knock Junior Spivey out of that number 11.
I was 20 years old in the big league, so I couldn't do anything, Dan. I showed up and I didn't speak, and I followed the rules, and I did what they told me to do. But that's where 11 came from. So it started with Anthony Hardaway, who was my guy growing up.
Do you have that original Nationals jersey, from your debut game, or a non-number 11
Oh, yeah.
Zim Nats jersey?
I believe I have the actual number 25 jersey that I was given. Yeah, I have it that day, or I have it framed in my house.
Nice.
Yeah. You have to come over sometime.
I've been there once.
Yeah.
Haven't been invited back
Yeah,
since.
you probably don't remember. because
there was a little bit of
bourbon
nice, consumed. So. All right. Thank you, Sarah, for that question. Last fan question of the quote-unquote in-season podcasts.
I wonder who it's from.
It has to come from our guy Vic, right? Like, this is the way that we have to end it. Vic says, now that the season has ended, when, what, and how do players start preparing for next season? No, it can vary by player, but how much time do players take off before they start to train? How often and how long do they train weekly? Do coaches keep in contact with players? Do players have a dietary program, et cetera, et cetera? How does that go from a playing standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to all that is yes, and it's crazy to see how much it's changed since the beginning of my career to now. And, the answer to, like, each player, I think it's different. And it's also different as you age as well. When I was younger, I would take a couple weeks off and then train and get right back into it. I think then you kind of go through this period where you're getting a little bit older, so you're like, I'm going to take a month or so off. And then you do that, and then you realize it's almost harder. If you're not hurt, if you're healthy and everything, like, to almost just keep going a little bit. Because if you take that month or month and a half off, it's almost harder to get back into shape than it is to just stay in shape. I mean, you're not going to go crazy. And so for me, it was like, whenever the season ended, the first month, I would just I would keep doing things, but it would be very casual. And then, like, after a month or so passed, that's when I would really start getting into, like, the hardcore baseball preparation for next year. And as far as how much you do a week, I think, it's 4 to 5 days, at least in my opinion. That's what a lot of people are doing. I would really not hit or throw until I got to Florida. A lot of these guys hit all year now. For me, it was, you're doing so much rotation, you're doing so much sport-specific work, you're getting that stuff in. And now also I would go to Florida like at the beginning of February. So I would have 2 months in Florida. So I could start at the beginning of February, swinging, throwing very light, and then ramp up. But, so that's kind of what I would do. And I think a lot of players are similar. Like, some probably do more, some probably do less. But the other aspect of that question, I think, is the nutrition. Mm-hmm. And I think that the whole wellness nutrition space in all the sports, but in baseball specifically, has gotten so much more advanced than it ever has been. I mean, these guys know their body. They're doing, just like blood testing that everyone else can do to realize if they're deficient in anything, if they're food sensitive, if, this supplementation works better to prevent inflammation. There's just so much science out there now that you'd be kind of dumb not to use it. So the nutrition aspect has really grown to try and keep these guys healthy. I mean, when you're playing every day and you're working out 10, 11 months out of the year, I mean, you're putting your body through it. So, I think it's a great question. You could have 100 guys on here and you would have 100 different answers. Yeah. But it's become, I don't want to say the most important part, but a very important part of baseball is how you keep yourself healthy, because they always say the most important ability is availability. So as a player, you want to do everything you can to keep yourself healthy.
It's interesting. Spring training is as long as it is because back in the day, players used to not work out so much in the off season, and then they needed that time in spring to get themselves in playing shape. And the game has just revolutionized so much. And just an addendum, I mean, you said that we could have 100 players here and 100 players could have different takes on how they approach their off season. Josh Bell, who's not a young guy anymore in the game, told me something late in the season. It's just interesting hearing how off-season training and preparation can be very specific to specific goals. Josh has been a slow starter in his career. He was a slow starter this year. And so in an effort to not start slow next year, he told me he's going to hit all off season. He's not going to take a break. He's not going to dial it back and give his body a refreshing. He wants to, because he found something with his swing the final few months, he wants to keep that going. So he's just going to keep hitting and keep hitting. And he said, if I need some soft tissue work over the course of the winter, I'll get it.
Yeah.
But he wants to keep rolling and not take downtime, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, know thyself.
Yeah.
You know, whatever works for you. There's no right way to do anything. And, you know, if I was swinging like he was for the last couple months, whatever it was for the season, I'd keep hitting too. That's pretty fun.
No doubt. Vic also asked just quickly, same question for Dan, not maybe as much about the dietary stuff, but what is your off season like regarding work? Yeah, I'm in the gym 4 to 5 days a week, just hitting and hitting and hitting. It's what's interesting about my work schedule is it's like 100 miles an hour for 7 months out of the year and then very close to 0 miles an hour for the other 5. I'm still working some events for the Nationals, and I'm around for various press conferences and needs. I do some college basketball broadcasting. But more than that, I kind of hit the reset button on the family time, spend time with the wife, the family, the friends, remind them that I'm still alive, watch some football, and just kind of unwind a little bit and recharge the batteries and get ready to go again.
It's nice to wake up some days and not have anything on the schedule.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. All right. Zim, the in-season, quote-unquote, portion of the podcast is done.
Yep.
We're going to keep these up once a month for you guys. Throughout the off-season, we're going to have plenty of stuff to discuss. We've got a new manager to hire. We've got coaches. We've got other front office positions. We've got potential free agent additions. We've got all sorts of stuff that'll be coming at us over the course of the next few months. So we'll chime in once a month to keep people posted.
Send in the emails, obviously, with the questions, but also if you want to request people to have on or people we should talk to. We have lots of good ideas, but, we love to hear what you guys think. You guys make the show what it is, so keep those emails coming in, and we look forward to doing some fun stuff in the off season.
Appreciate it as always. Thanks for listening to the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim.